The matter of the meraglim, of the spies, is extremely deep. There's a lot of detail, there's a lot of parts. As the Mishnah says, it's the 10th test that the Jewish people, Klal Yisrael, put Kodesh Baruch Hu through, so to speak. And that itself raises the question because, as the Lashon points out, the language of testing, this is not a test. This was a chet, it was a major sin that the Jewish people perpetrated. So why is it called a test? The other times, the other 9 tests, so to speak, the Lashon explains, is that it's mostly the Erev Rav, the mixed multitude, that perpetrated the actual chet, the sin itself. The Jewish people weren't directly involved. Rather, there's always a straggle, there's always some people who get schlepped into it, but the vast majority of Klal Yisrael did not get involved in the chet and the other chetoim, the other sins. And rather, they tested the Kodesh Baruch Hu, because each time it happened, they stood back to see if Hashem would cut them off at that time. In other words, they thought that this was the end of it. Once we've already done one chet, one sin, another sin, how long will Hashem put up with us? And we're in the midbar, we're in the desert, and at some point in time, He just might abandon us. We're stuck here, a very dangerous place to survive. And they kept doubting. They kept doubting HaKadosh Baruch Hu's promise to take care of them. So that was a lashon of nisayon. That's a lashon of testing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But here, this is not a test per se. This is in fact the Jewish people themselves perpetrating the chet and going against the ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that itself raises the question, which I actually addressed in this week's parshah sheet of perceptions. So if you want to see the side, you can see perceptions. But the point that I want to focus on here is extremely important. It's very fascinating, but it's also, you just can't use the word fascinating for something that's earth-shattering, something that's historically, life-altering. This is a very important, crucial point that applies very much today, as it has all through history. And it's brought down in Sha'ar HaGilgulim, the gate of reincarnation by the Arizal, which deals with not just the concept of reincarnation, but also the historical impact of certain reincarnations and the mechanics and dynamics of world history and Jewish history. And here, he brings down a very interesting point. He says the following: "V'ata nivar inyan hamaraglim." Now we're going to explain the issue of the maraglim, of the spies, right? Daki elu asar maraglim terem shalchu l'regel asa'aretz, right? That before these 10 spies, there were 12, but 2 of them came back. Yeshua and Caleb came back with the proper reports. We're only dealing with the 10 that went off the derech that made the mistake of bringing back Diba ala Aretz, speaking very badly about Eretz Israel and causing us to go into exile for thousands of years, not just 40 years, but for thousands of years. Thousands of years, we're trying to rectify their mistake, right? So he says that before they went out to spy the land, nisabru behen the shamas shvatim. Before they went out there, there's 2 types of gilgulim. One of them is the one that you're born with. Everybody today is a gilgul. No one's here for the first time. We've been here many times over and over again, which explains extreme fatigue when there's no physical reason to explain it, right? And coffee doesn't work, right? After being here for so long, so many times over and over again, that you're born with a certain soul, and that soul that goes into your body, your life depends upon it. Without that soul, you're not going to survive. That's the main Gilgul, the main reincarnation. But it's possible, as he explains, to get other kinds of Gilgulim even while you're living. You can get an additional soul, and up to 3 additional souls, right? Depends on the special being offered that day, that will go into you, right? Depending upon your spiritual needs. And that soul can come into you at any point while you're living. And because it comes into you while you're already living, you don't depend upon it. Your life does not depend upon it, so it can also go while you're living. There'll be an impact. The impact of getting it, he explains, will be for 2 purposes, possibly for the person who died and is gaining extra merit through your life and your mitzvahs. And the other reason is to help you to excel, to achieve things in your lifetime that perhaps you can't given your own personal soul. So it comes to elevate you and cause you to go to a higher level that you want to get to, that you're striving to get to, but you lack the actual spiritual qualifications to get to. We call it Siyata Shemaya, heavenly help. So he said that's called Ibur, because the same way that a child is a woman's muber, she's pregnant with a child inside of her, Likewise, the soul comes, spiritually impregnates the person, meaning they become, they have another soul inside them, just like a baby's inside the mother, the womb. Likewise, the soul's inside a person. So the lashon of ibur is used for this, the second type of gilgulim, okay, which explains a lot. There's a lot of things that are explained through this concept, but it's not for right now. So he says the following thing, that before they went out to spy the land, the 10 sons of Yaakov, literally, mamash, Asar ben Yaakov, mamash, he says, went in b'derech ibur into the 10 shvatim to correspond to them. In other words, the souls of the Bnei Yaakov, going back to Yosef's time, the real sons, the actual sons themselves, came back later on as an ibur inside their descendants from the same tribe as they go to spy the land, presumably to help them out, that they should succeed at their mission. Right? And that's why Yosef says to his brothers back in Parshas Miketz, when they came to go looking for food, right? They came down to Mitzrayim, and they stood before Yosef, who is now viceroy. They didn't recognize him, but he recognized them. And out of the blue, which threw them completely for a loop, he called them spies. Meraglim matem, he calls them. He came to spy the land. They came to buy food. They looked so innocent. They were, came with innocence. And he says, Meraglim matem. There's nothing worse than being accused of false accusations. And as we've explained before in the past, there's different levels to this discussion. Also, he was hinting to them who he was and what was going on over here, because Meraglim is also the Rosh Tevas, Mi'imi Rachel Genavtem, Libidyanim Yishmaelim Machartem. That's a Rosh Tevas. Each of those words, the first letter is from the word Meraglim. So he's also hinting to them. But over here, there's a deeper pshat. He says, Meraglim Matem. And he says, Ramaz Lehem Sheheyu Asidim, right, in the future, Lisa Bear, but Meraglim. They're going to come back in the future and go into the Meraglim that spy this week's parsha as an ibur, right? Gam zeh sod mashikasut bereish Parashas Shlach. And that's also the sod, because there's always an underlying Kabbalistic message to the psukim of each week's parsha. So this is the sod of the parsha. The pasuk says, Kulam anashim roshi b'nei Yisrael hema. Because the pasuk, when it's identifying who these spies were, it says that they were the heads of the Bnei Israel, of the children of Israel, the Jewish people. Ki heim mamash Bnei Israel sapa. And the sod of that pasuk is, this pasuk is telling you on a sod level, it's talking to us on a Kabbalistic level for those people who want to peek and know what's going on over here, that they literally were the Rosh Yisrael. And on a pshat level, it means they were the leaders at that time. But on a sod level, it means they were the leaders of all time, the actual original fathers of the Shvatim. That's what the pasuk is telling you. Ki heim mamash b'nei Israel, they were mamash b'nei Israel Saba, they were the older generation, l'chein lo kasiv roshei alfi Israel. So therefore it does not say that they were the leaders of the thousands of Jews, so to speak, because the leader of thousands opposed to the entire Bnei Israel. Ella roshei b'nei Israel. Doesn't just say, because that would be more appropriate to call them leaders of their own Shvatim, but the leaders of a section of Klal Yisrael would be more accurate in this week's parsha. But instead it refers to them as all of Bnei Israel, alluding to the fact that this is mamish the real Shvatim over here. But after they came back with the bad advice, they came back and speak badly on the land, right? As they came back to tell Moshe Rabbeinu it's a mistake to go up there to Israel. As nistalku mehem lishamas hashvatim shnit'arvu behem. And because they came back with this evil report, they lost the schus. They lost because it's a schus. It's a merit to have somebody, especially someone greater than you, to come back into your body and help you to achieve greater spiritual goals. It's a tremendous merit, but you only have it as long as you're doing the mitzvah. The neshama did not come down to participate in your chatayim. I didn't bargain for this. I came down to help the guy to reach higher levels. And this guy's going to lower levels. It's not for me. I'm out of here. Right? So that's what he does. They leave, right? At that point in time, he brings up psukim to show how this alludes to the extra psukim. In fact, it answers one of the questions, as Rashi points out, this week's parsha, where it says, right, when they came back to spy the land, it says, V'yechu v'yavo el Moshe v'el Haron. It mentions the going out twice.